That's the sound of the 1951 Ford Victoria Hot Rod, fully restored and donated from the private collection of A.J. Hires. It's the 2017 Win the Classic Ford Car Raffle to support Helping Seniors of Brevard. You have to see this car. I'm Kerry Fink, and I'm inviting you to visit helpingseniors.brevard.org for full information on this exciting car raffle. That's helpingseniors.brevard.org. Stay tuned for more info on the Talk to Me radio network. We're glad that WMEL cares about the space and Treasure Coast.
The views expressed on the following program are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of WMEL staff, management, or advertisers.
This is Joe Steckler, folks, your host for Helping Seniors, the radio arm of helpingseniors.brevard.org. That's our website. If you want to find out anything about helping seniors, what we do, and our mission is to inform, educate, and connect seniors and those that care for seniors to resources. We are really an information network. To find out more about what we do and how you can get help from us, call Kay Kaiser, our information specialist, at area code 321-473-7770. See, folks, one of the biggest things that we do is if you make the phone call with a potential problem and you talk to Kay about it, you might find out she's got some other problems that are related to what you want to discuss with her, but you might find an easier solution to the overall problem. And that's the advantage of having somebody that's got more information than you do about what an immediate problem can cause or how to affect a solution. So what we do is we try to help with problem solving, get you to the right resource you need to solve the problem that you've got. We also we have our radio network, we have our television network, we have our media outreach program in all the newspapers and Senior Scene Magazine, Spotlight Magazine, Aldea Today, Barefoot Bay Tatler, Space Coast Online newspaper, and the Hometown newspaper. So it's just a tremendous outreach, especially with Senior Scene Magazine. What we do is just get information out there, so it's so important. Today, my panelists are two people with me in the studio. One of them is Dr. Lee Sheldon. Dr. Sheldon is a periodontist, and Kerry Fink, who is executive director for Helping Seniors. And one of the subjects we're going to talk about today, along with some changes in the law, the value of a senior network, how a senior network can benefit Brevard County because we have so many seniors. So many people are astounded when they find out that we have over almost 50% of the population really qualifies for being a senior by AARP standards, but there are 23.9 or 24.3% of us are actually over the age of 65. So that's a significant standard. But one of the things that we're going to talk about first with Dr. Sheldon is really the differences between private and corporate dentistry. And I think that most of you need to listen to what Dr. Sheldon is going to talk about today, because if you pick up the paper, you are starting to see so many different advertisements for periodontal care, for implants, for all types of dentistry. And how do you know who can do what needs to be done to your mouth? And more I look into it, and especially with medical care, right now I've discovered, I'll talk about a problem I have, we'll talk about it later on the show, but first, Dr. Sheldon, just talk about just generally your philosophy on dental care, because it's extremely important. It's becoming more important for a number of reasons.
Well, thanks, Joe, and good to be here. We've got, of course, anything like this gradually develops, and I'm talking about corporate dentistry, gradually develops, and essentially what we're looking at is organizations that are for-profit organizations. That doesn't mean I'm not a for-profit practice. I am. But they're for-profit organizations which will often look at the commodity first and the patient treatment second, even though they'll say otherwise. So in dentistry, you can still, and medicine too for that matter, you can still develop a relationship with a doctor. We still have enough private practices out there where you can develop a relationship. When that relationship occurs, then in fact and you're dealing with an ethical dentist, of course, then you can start to look with that dentist on the varying options that you might have for yourself. And you might think you can do the same thing with corporate, and to some degree you can. But corporate is very much built on commodities. How many crowns did you do? How many procedures did you do? Did you sell a certain amount of dentistry today? And I know this because I know people who've worked in corporate dentistry. So it'd be interesting for us to get a corporate person on along with me at the same time, and then we'd have a little bit of a discussion. But when you're dealing in commodities like crowns and implants and devices, you start to then say, all right, I can get this device for a certain price, and on the other side, the corporate dentist will say, I can deliver this device for a certain price. But as we talked about before, a device doesn't equal a device, and the person doing the device is more important than the device itself. So it becomes incumbent upon the shopper or the consumer to look not just at what's the price of the device, but who's delivering the device, and is it even a good idea, or is it necessary to have that device put in? And then finally, what's the quality of the device? Who's the person who's doing the device, and what's the laboratory technician? Who's the laboratory technician who's doing the device itself? So you can't just look at a product and say, crown, I can get crown for X amount of dollars here and crown for Y dollars there. They may not be the same thing.
Well, when you kept, I was going to ask you what you meant by device. You're talking about the like the prosthesis type thing, whether I call it prosthesis crown or something.
Whether you're talking about a denture, whether you're talking about a crown, whether you're talking about an implant. I mean, a defined something product that finds its way into the mouth.
I was reading in one of the, in fact, I think it was in one of these papers distributed locally, where a doctor had recently, I don't know if you saw this, had done implants and stuff on two veterans. One was a female veteran, the other was a male veteran. They both were a short time in the service. And obviously, their teeth did not deteriorate just in the 4 or 5 or 6 years they were in the military. They had a lot of that deterioration was done before. And I'm surprised that the state of their mouth was so bad, having been in the military. Once they were admitted to the military, because all the people I saw admitted into the military, if your teeth were that bad, you didn't get in. And if they were bad and they took you, they fixed them.
That's right.
So I don't know what the heck happened to these people along the road, but it made this dentist sound like, he was a savior. They had taken something like 30 clients, and they picked these two out, and they restored them where they had a beautiful set of teeth, and they touted this as veterans care.
Yeah, and we see that. I mean, we've seen a plastic surgeon in this area do the same thing. And I did read the article, and essentially it was the person qualified or the people qualified in some way. And they did it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing to do.
No, I think it is a good thing to do, but it makes me wonder about all the different types of care and curative type care that are offered out there.
Well, as you and I have discussed, I think diagnosis is more important than treatment. That looking at the case and assessing the case for what it is may very well be more important than doing the treatment itself. That doesn't mean the treatment has to be done well, but you have to know when it's the right time or whether it's appropriate to do the treatment or not do the treatment. So, the judgment call, as with any, I don't care whether you're hiring a roofer, a plumber, or a dentist, a physician, it doesn't make any difference. The judgment call is often the more important thing. You're going through a judgment call right now with what you're about to talk about, your knee.
Yeah.
And so you get opinions and you look at judgment before you actually jump in and do a procedure. Same thing is true for any service.
And this bothers me because I asked Kerry to talk about it because he said some recent experience with doctors, with members of his family. But in my own case, I have been going around. I actually found it extremely painful to walk. I could not walk. I couldn't use my cane and walk. I couldn't stand the pain from putting my left foot down on the ground, even using a cane. I had to use my rollator, and that's not a good thing to do, put so much weight on the rollator. Because rollator is mostly for a guide, just to make sure that you keep yourself upright. Right. It's not a wheelchair.
Yep.
And there's a lot of dangers of trying to use a rollator that way. You tip
fall over.
Fall.
You can fall over if you use too much pressure on there. Yeah.
But in my time on this earth, I have found that every time that I have a real serious problem, I've been blessed because I've had good doctors. And the doctors I've had, I've been able to explain to them what I thought was what was wrong with me. But then after they went so far in their own fields of expertise, just like with this knee problem, my primary care doctor sent me over and got a CT scan. He doesn't just go and say, let's get a scan of this, let's do that. It's just, he tries to rule out things before. The opposite, we had tried therapy, we tried a lot of things. But the pain was bad, and then when I found out through the CT scan that I had a displacement of the patella, and even in the medical write-ups it says the words extreme pain. And when they say extreme pain, that means it hurts like hell.
Yeah.
And it did hurt. So now my question becomes, just like so many of our listeners, I've identified a problem. Now, how do I get the right kind of help? Where do I go to get the right kind of care? I start asking questions of other doctors. I start asking things. I said, who would you go to if you had this kind of a problem? Well, right away, they can eliminate the ones that they know that they wouldn't send a patient.
We're not going to go to a dermatologist for this.
No, we're not going to go to a dermatologist for this. And sometimes, I'll tell you, Lee, some of the medical problems I'd much rather come to you and see if I can get a diagnosis than some of the people I've gone to.
That's right. Yeah. And listen, we've gone through that in our practice, and I'm fortunate enough to know so many medical professionals around here. And, we and have done, how much work I've done, not in medicine, but ancillary to medicine, including the TV show that I did for 8.5 years, and a lot of reading that I do.
Well, that's right.
You get a lot of knowledge. You get to know who's good and who's good.
Take on the subject of nutrition. There was a recent article in Florida Today about the county commissioners deciding to revoke the vote of the Civilian Advisory Board because Aging Matters didn't score high enough, meaning their Wheels on Wheels program was not going to get the money they've been handed for the last number of years without any question. Just it got it because it was Meals on Wheels. It's a great program. It takes food to people. Nobody ever asked, does it meet all the needs? Is the food good to eat? Is it nutritious? There's a lot of questions that can be asked.
Well, that's akin to what I'm talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about. You hear Meals on Wheels and food delivery, okay, that's it. That's great. No, it isn't. You've got to look at the food that's being delivered. Yeah. And we're talking about corporate dentistry versus individual dentistry, or selecting the correct dentist or understanding what to look out for. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that's actually a point that I wanted to jump in and say, because I think it was a month or so back, Tammy and I had the opportunity to go to one of the seminars that Dr. Sheldon was doing about dental implants. And the thing that occurs to me is when you're a consumer and you really don't know, you see an ad in the newspaper and it says you can buy whatever item for this price. And, we don't drive cars based on miles per gallon. I mean, we don't. We all choose cars based on what we think is going to be the appropriate vehicle. Some people need more space. They trade off, all those kind of things. One of the things that we walked away with from being in that seminar was getting an understanding that it isn't a commodity. You can't select dental practice based on this price is cheaper because, and they did a real good job of explaining to us that it's not only how the dental appliances are created, that Dr. Sheldon has like the in-house lab. They use a higher grade of materials. I mean, there's all these things that you as a consumer, if you were just price item trying to do this, you wouldn't get that understanding. And that's why the value of a referral is so important in this, because then you're getting something that my father had this expression. He goes, I'm not rich enough to buy something cheap. That won't do the job. I have to get the thing that's actually going to solve what I'm after. And that's what, to me, the conversation that we're having about today.
Well, it's going to become even more important, and perhaps Dr. Sheldon can comment on this a minute because he's a doctor. But I've talked to several doctors recently, and with the recent government intervention and these opioid drugs and medications, pain relievers, and everything else, the doctors themselves are getting the heat put on them for prescribing. And so we find it's just like one doctor said to me. He said, "Joe," he said, "I have patients in pain, and I know what their pain is caused from, and I know that there's with their current state and whether their bodies are acclimating to whatever the problem is. The only thing we can do is try to make sure they're comfortable. There's nothing else they can do." And he said, "Then when the government is going to start, if I lose my prerogative on prescribing what I think is best for my patients, I'm in real trouble, and I can't do my patients the service they need to have done." What about something like that, Dr. Sheldon, with the things that are happening?
Well, things have changed for us too, and so for example, if I'm seeing a patient for surgical treatment, if I have to prescribe pain medication for more than 2 weeks after the surgical treatment is done, then I have to refer that patient to pain management. So understand it's hit us as well. I've got a limit of 2 weeks, which, I mean, for most of the procedures we do, they're not painful, but, some people have reactions or will have untoward results or whatever that is. Over the period of my career, there was no such thing as a pain management specialist when I first started in practice. And now we have pain management specialists up and down the county and all over the country. Essentially, they're the ones then who prescribe the opioid drugs. So essentially, it moves that pain management. So your physician, who's probably not a pain management specialist, it moves that item to a physician where there's probably more control, where government has more control. There's a select number of pain management specialists. They are the ones who are prescribing the drugs, and the government keep track of the drugs that are prescribed. It doesn't. I mean, it's important. There's a couple of things that are going on here. Number one, because there's an assumption that it's only pain management that control the pain, you kind of eliminate the non-pain management specialists. You would eliminate the physical therapists, the chiropractors, the homeopaths, anybody else who might be able to have an inkling as to what could cause the pain. Essentially, if you're staying in the medical system, you go to the pain management specialist. And by the way, the pain management specialists may provide physical therapy as well. They're not just doing just prescribing drugs. But the bigger problem is that there are a lot of people who are taking medications, a lot more medications now, and I'm talking about medications including opioids, a lot more than there were when I started my career.
Yeah,
they just are.
Well, since we're sort of hinging around a problem, folks, you know that I've always shared with you my medical problems over the years because I felt that by sharing the medical problems I'm having and the treatments I'm receiving, that it might in some way offer some kind of information or education to you on your own current problem. I've all of a sudden picked up a problem in my left knee, and it turns out it's the patella, and my kneecap is moving the wrong way. And even in the medical books, it says when this happens, it can cause, and the words you used were extreme pain. Well, I'm going to tell you, on a scale 9, 10, 11, it's 10 bordered on 11. It's all I can do to walk on my leg. I can't really do it. But I tried a brace on yesterday. I found a brace help a little bit. But is that a cure? We don't know yet. Dr. Sheldon, when I came, we started talking about it. We talked about, well, am I going to go back to therapy? My primary care doctor mentioned therapy. We're going to get the brace, and then he put me on a new medication. And actually, this is a medication I had taken years ago. It's actually helped my fibromyalgia, quite frankly. It really has. It hasn't done to me what that doggone drug Lyrica did, and I can feel free about talking about Lyrica now because there's a huge article in the paper today about Lyrica and how it can tear you apart. And what they described in the paper, I went through every one of those symptoms, and I've described them on this radio show to people because I think that there's not enough, Lee and Kerry, of people sharing with the general public at large what some of their medical problems are. So, because if you got a problem And if somebody talks about it, and it sort of relates to it gives you some idea what you might want to think about is happening to you.
Sure.
And it's a lot easier to do it that way than it is to read in a book, because where are you going to read in a book? Where are you going to get started on all this? And I think that goes back to what you said when we start talking about the value of nutrition, the value of eating good foods. Those values just don't take effect overnight. It takes time to do that.
Well, it does. But we're talking about, at least here, is the value of relationships with good doctors. I think that's, and we talked about that a little bit in the last month we were together as well. So if we're talking about the difference between corporate and private dentistry, understand that it isn't just, and I'm repeating myself now, it's not just price for commodity. There's more to it than that.
Yeah.
And Kerry, I forgot that you were there to see that.
Yeah, and it was, that's what I say. It was really very revelational, because the way that you and the team of doctors there presented it was not, quote, a sales pitch. It was giving information that you as a consumer, because you open something up and you see an ad and it says this is what this is, and yet the analogy that just comes to mind is we don't buy a car based on price per wheel or something. I mean, you look at, is this actually the car that's going to suit what I'm trying to accomplish here? And I think when you present not only you presented case studies, you're showing this is why our practice is a good practice, that you can see that we have a history of doing this. This is how we work this. You need to be aware of certain things that you may not be aware of. Why we have the facility dental lab and all the things, because it's all about getting you to resolve your situation. And that seems to me one of the things that's really important. We have a network within the Helping Seniors organization of businesses that pledge to really assist seniors. And in fact, we had somebody in connection to some of the work we do down in Palm Bay said, well, are you guys a referral service? And the answer is no, we're not a referral service. We don't just get a caller who calls our senior information helpline and say, well, call this number and I hope it works out. We try to be with them every step of the way. Sometimes, as you know, Kay will say it'll take 6, 7 calls to make sure that we've gotten the person to the correct resource that is going to resolve the issue. Because if it was just, how many calls, that's one thing. But the answer is to get the problem solved. And I think I'm not putting words in your mouth, but it seems like that's one of the things that you guys really pride yourselves in, is making sure that what the patient is trying to accomplish is actually what happens.
Yeah, it's true, and that's what we're trying to do. And you're right. That seminar talks about planning and everything else, and what we're able to do to make sure the patient comes out right in the very end.
Folks, we're up against our mid-show break, but before I turn it over I'm going to do it right now. But do stay with us, because there are a couple other things I want to talk about important on dentistry, because I want to blow the myth on this insurance business just a little bit. And so stay with us. Be right back. This is Joe Steckler, folks. We're back live with the second part of the show, Helping Seniors. Our program is designed to inform, educate, and connect seniors and those that care for seniors with resources that they need for the seniors they're caring for or the seniors themselves. And we do that through our information specialist, Kay Kaiser. You can reach her at area code 321-473-7770. Give her a call. If she can't handle a call, she'll get you to somebody that can handle a call. In fact, she got one call, and she got rid of it by going to me. And I've been going crazy trying to figure out how to solve this guy's problem, and I'm not sure I can. And I'm trying to figure out who I can go to in law enforcement to figure out how to get some real forces to bear on this. Should it be an attorney? Should it be a lawyer? An attorney or law enforcement? And it's driving me nuts, because I get these calls. In fact, when I told you to stick around for the second part of the show, I was listening to Kerry and Lee talk, and I came up with 2 different ways to get back into the second part of the show, and then all of a sudden the third way came up, and the third way was this. But first, before I do that, I just want to remind people that sponsors do pay for all that we do. And some of our sponsors include the Eye Institute, Dr. Sheldon himself, Bill Johnson, elder law attorney, Zon Beachside Assisted Living Facility, Riverview Senior Resort, Market Street Memory Care, Barbara McIntyre, the Fountains of Melbourne, Canadian Meds, and that's a good one to look at, folks. With the cost of medicine going up, Joe Pons over at Canadian Meds can save you one heck of a lot of money. Now, if you're retired military, or if you got a good drug plan copay, that's not going to bother you so much. But if you are hurting for buying drugs, Joe can save you sometimes as much as 200 or 300% of your cost, and that's a heck of a savings. And I've seen some of them myself. But let's go back to get back in the second part of the show, because it leads into a question that Dr. Sheldon is something we're already going to talk about. But how many of you sitting here listening to the show are gritting your teeth, maybe because your teeth don't meet right? And I asked Dr. Sheldon, because he put my implants in, and I have had a lot of other work done. But I've noticed that my bite isn't, it's not comfortable. It's just, I find myself pushing harder on the right side of my mouth than I do the left side of my mouth, and I wonder to myself, why am I doing that? Is that a habit or a type of chain reaction thing? And then I mentioned this to Dr. Sheldon. He talked about the teeth. He talked about TMJ, and he'll explain what that is. And he talked about neck muscles. So how is all this related? And people having this kind of a problem that I've just explained, it might be a little thing, but it could be a big thing, couldn't it, Lee?
Well, it could. It's if it's a bite problem, your teeth can move, and they do move from time to time. By the way, implants do not move, but teeth do drift over a period of time. So sometimes the bite can shift. But more often than not, in my own practice, I've found that when a person comes in with a complaint you talk about, I'm meeting on the right side more prominently, more heavily than I'm meeting on the left side.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
And I didn't before. Or I'm biting my front teeth but not my back teeth, but my bite lined up perfectly well before. The first question I ask them is, have you had a neck or a back problem? You see, because if you have a neck or a back problem, then the vertebrae aren't lining up correctly. The muscles that are attached to those vertebrae aren't lining up correctly, and those muscles are indirectly attached to the jaw muscles. And so that if your back is out or if your neck is out, it can very much influence your bite. I've worked with chiropractors, physical therapists over the years, and the last thing that you want to do is to grind the teeth, because the teeth may not have moved, but the lower jaw may have moved because the muscles are pulling on it in the wrong direction.
So you're trying to do the correction the wrong way.
Well, you're going to the end of it rather than going to the source
beginning
of it. Yeah.
Well, you didn't hit on the TMJ thing, because that a...
Nah, why would I confuse the issue? I don't even want to talk about it.
Isn't that a big part of the problem?
Well, the TMJ which is the joint between the lower jaw and the skull, is one of those movable parts in the body that can change position as a result of muscular stress in any part of the body, but certainly in the area of the neck.
Well, what would be the problem I just described?
Yeah.
The average listener, what would be the most common, if there is such a word to use this, what would be the most common part of a person feeling discomfort when they push their teeth together and not feel that they're right?
It would be muscular stress, and the first thing I'd do would be to put my fingers in your mouth, not in the area of the teeth, but in the area of the muscles that are controlling the jaw, and see if you have any hot spots in those muscles, and actually massage those muscles out, and then ask you if the bite has changed. And usually it does.
Wow.
And then if it does, then I'd refer you to a physical therapist or chiropractor to take care of the rest of the problem.
Could a person themselves massage their jaw?
Yeah, actually, I've got patients who have this chronically, or they just want to know what they can do, and so I do it once, I show them how to do it, and then they can do it at home.
That's good. Folks, you might spend a little money going to Dr. Sheldon to get him to show you how to do it, but think how much money you'd save in the long run. That's another way. That's kind of like buying a car.
Yeah. Or it's going to a good mechanic who knows where the problem really is.
But you hit on something very important. When we talk about medical care, whether we're going to a doctor, a medical doctor, a dentist, or a chiropractor, or a physical therapist, each has their own area of expertise. A lot of those areas of expertise work across another area. And good practitioners in each of those fields should and probably are willing to share secrets, ways to take care of people, take care of themselves.
That's true. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm teaching periodontists and specialists all over the country some things that we do as well. So I mean, yeah, at this stage, listen, my career has been a great career. I love my career. It's I couldn't have picked a better one. But now at this point in my life, it's more writing and speaking and teaching and that type of thing, so that you can take.
Have you started on another Ultimate Mouth Manual?
No, we just published our third edition a few months ago. But I'm just completing my second book for dental specialists, and that should be in print within the next couple of months.
Are you still taking our shows and stuff like that, using them as some of the background material?
Not for the book, no, I'm not.
But for the
Ultimate Mouth Manual, there's some material in there that we've repeated on these shows. Yes. Yes.
Because what he did, folks, was take what we talked about on the show, committed it to writing, and using some very simplistic sketches, made it possible for the average layperson to understand what it was that we were talking about.
Yeah, that was the fundamental for the Ultimate Mouth Manual, and you make me write a new essay once a month, and so I have more and more material.
Yeah, and let's see, the article you just did for the next issue of Senior Scene talks about this. It's a follow-up on...
I did the abscess. I did abscess part 2. Yeah, I forgot to. I did abscess part 1, and then I said next month we'll do abscess part 2, and I forgot that I promised to do that. So we had an intervening article, and now we've got abscess part 2. Okay. So in this abscess, which we talked about last month, it's the periodontal abscess, the abscess that's in the area of the gum tissue and the bone, rather than the abscess that comes from the inside of the tooth.
But I find that it becomes when we take the subject, there's so many different connections with dentistry and other parts of the body. When you start talking about the other connections, it makes a discussion of what could be very simple quite involved. If you think about it, and one thing I did one of the ways I was going to get back into the show was to talk about when you go into a dentist office, you look at their whole practice, and you can see in many places you go into, you see a chair, and you see a basin for a person to expel water, and you see a drill, and you see a cabinet. Yeah. Others, you may see x-rays, and probably more dental offices now you're seeing x-ray machines, because almost all dentists take x-rays. But they don't have the wealth of equipment that you have, and other dentists are doctors that do more. They're more specialists, and they can do more to pinpoint the care that you're receiving. And it's just like, a person wants to go to a good primary care physician, but they want to go to somebody that just is brand new out of school. It's using you as a guinea pig. You'd like to feel that the guy's been practicing on somebody else too, as well as you.
Well, there's some people who specialize in doing extensive dentistry. That's our practice. Our practice is extensive dentistry. Yeah. I think the difficulty that people have is if they're getting extensive dentistry and the dentist may not be trained well enough to do that extensive dentistry, then you can get into a little bit of trouble. Most of the patients that we see are patients who are here either for second opinions, or they had given up on dentistry for a long time because for some reason dentistry had failed them or in some way, and so now they're trying to get back into the system, and they have major needs, and we have to be able to help them and fulfill those needs.
Okay. And I really relate all that to getting the person I think is more of an expert at whatever we're going to do. Kerry, talking what Lee and I and you have been talking about here, but sort of, how do you believe that relates to the value of having a good senior information network that can describe to a caller the types of care or something, a service that is available in a local area, and to help them shortcut all the chaff that might be in between? Get to the source of the problem. And I think that's more of what we're trying to do with helping seniors.
Well, I think you get flooded with information. It's not hard. You turn on a TV, you turn on a radio, you see a newspaper. You're getting flooded with information. The question is that really valuable to you? So there is such a thing as overchoice. People can make a decision if you give them fish or chicken when when you sit there and stare at the menu and you have all these things. Sometimes you don't even know where to begin. I think one of the things that Helping Seniors does through the concept of having the Helping Seniors Network and the information that Kay is able to supply and work with callers who call in, is basically they're navigating the system. It's just like what we were talking about before when it came to dentistry. There's a certain level of experience at looking. Two situations are not going to be the same. They're never going to be exactly the same. But what will happen is the experience from one situation will help direct the approach to resolving the second situation. And that's why the experience, for example, when somebody calls us and they have a problem, one of the things when Kay talks to them, they'll say, well, we tried to do this or this or this to try to resolve it, and it's still not helping. Well, by putting the expertise that Kay, that you, and that the other people connected to Helping Seniors have to bear on it, there's often at times like, well, if we attack it at this level, or if we go for this resource, or let's talk to these people over here, that all of a sudden advances the whole cause. So what you're really getting when you get connected with Helping Seniors is you're getting access to a system that has been tried over time. Joe, we were talking this. Joe is the longest running radio personality in all of our area, according to John Harper, with 20 some odd years. There isn't probably anything that somebody could run up on that you haven't already dealt with at some form or fashion along the way. That experience is valuable, I think.
Well, it is, and I find myself getting frustrated when I keep getting the same problem and realize that we have not been able to put something in place all these years to make people realize that it's very easy to take a system that's really working well and break it. And I'm afraid that that's what our current set of county commissioners is doing. With their recent act to defund nonprofits, and I'm not just talking Helping Seniors, I'm talking about other organizations, because what a lot of our listeners simply don't understand when you get into the nonprofit world, a word seed is extremely important. Seed money in this case. If you have organizations like Publix that contribute close to or more than $1 million to the United Way of Brevard County, and Harris Corporation commits another $1 million, and you find out that overhead expenses are extremely high, or you don't take on new organizations, then organizations like Helping Seniors can't get past the front door with any of those people. They want to give it to the organizations it's been giving to. But does that mean, it's just like in the dentistry field, should we keep going to a doctor that has a foot pedal for a drill as compared to the guy that's got the high-speed drill? It doesn't make sense to me. And the hardest thing to do is get information out. It's just like when you mentioned on the first part of the show. When people hear the word Meals on Wheels, they automatically say, "Great! It's the greatest thing in the world. It's a multi-million-dollar program." Well, in some respects it is. Other respects it is. What a lot of people don't know is they don't have roots in certain places. They don't serve certain people. People feel uncomfortable. I've had people call me over the years and say, "Joe, have you ever eaten those meals?" I said, "Yes, I have." And would I want to keep going back? No, I wouldn't. And I don't say that to demean anything, but a lot of it depends. They had a cook out there at Meals on Wheels at the community kitchen. The guy, Alex, was great. His food was excellent. And you go to a restaurant, and the quality of the food you get there is dependent on the chef.
Sure.
And that's just the way it is. Some guys can take a hot dog or a hamburger and do wonders with it. Others it can really obliterate it, or they can burn it to death. So that's the same way in your field. It's the same way in what you're trying to do with Helping Seniors. But having said all those things, we still have to manage to pay for the programs. Mm-hmm. And if United Way is not going to help, if the county's not going to help, if they're going to turn all the money off, then the nonprofits that are going to succeed in the future to help people get good information about dentistry, primary care physicians, and we do that. Where to go for help. We're going to have to do some changing, and And then the people themselves, especially in a county that's got so many seniors, we're just going to have to do more about seniors stepping forward. So what are some of your thoughts on that, Kerry? Especially this car raffle, the importance of it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, one of the things is helping seniors is probably a model in that respect because we are such a lean and mean organization. I often refer to us as the little engine that could, because we have not ever been sitting under the spigot of a lot of government grants or things like that. So we've always had to kind of scrap our own way through. And the thing is, I think it's the expertise and the passion of the people who are involved that make the difference. And so people say, well, how do you run the organization? And one of the answers is because you have a lot of great friends in business who understand the importance of the work. So here comes AJ Hires, probably one of the top car dealers in our area, who helped you as you were building the entire Alzheimer's organization, and same now with helping seniors, where he says, Joe, I want to support the work that you're doing. I'm going to give you a car out of my personal collection, a beautiful 1951 Ford Victoria, just a hot rod that is totally restored. People, whenever we take it out to a car show, they just ooh and ah over it. And so here's this $45,000 vehicle, and he's, Joe, take this. I want you to do good work and help seniors. And the way that you, listener, can get involved and help us in this is it's a car raffle. The car is going to be given away February 10th, 2018, so just a couple of months from now, at a big event at the American Muscle Car Museum. And that car is going to wind up in somebody's driveway and be a real treat for them, but it's also a real help for helping seniors because it helps us do what we do. So raffle tickets are $5 or $25 for one ticket, or you can pick up 5 for $100. It's a donation to helping seniors, helps keep the lights on and the phone bill paid, and keeps the thing moving forward. And if you haven't been to our Facebook page, there is a Facebook page. Just look, Helping Seniors Win the Classic, and you'll see all these beautiful pictures of the car. And it was interesting. I was having this discussion Sunday with somebody. There's 3 reasons people will end up buying a raffle ticket. Some people just love the car. They just fall in love with the car, and they want to get the ticket, and they say, I want this car. So that's their motivation. There's another group of people, though, who really see the work of helping seniors, and they say, this is important. There was a lady who bought a raffle ticket Sunday at the, we were out at the Mustang and Ford show down at Palm Bay Ford, and the lady said, I just went through this with my father. All of a sudden, everything was fine, and one day ran into this problem. I need to do something that's going to help you guys keep this going forward. I'd love to win the car, but I really just want to support the organization and help the work of helping seniors. And the funny thing is, the third reason that people say they want to buy a raffle ticket, and then is of all things, they want to be able to take a peek inside the American Muscle Car Museum because it's not open to the public. So it's a very special thing. You get your ticket, you're able to be at the American Muscle Car Museum with us on February 10th. And most people say, I want to do all 3. I want to win the car, I want to see the Muscle Car Museum, and I really want to help you guys with helping seniors.
Well, just to give you an idea, Kerry, we had a call from Bill Kelly of the old car raffle. I think he's located up north someplace. I forget exactly where he's, like in Vermont or someplace. But he sent us an email and said, I'd like to just put your car on my site. And because he remembered what I'd done over to the Alzheimer's Foundation. And I said, gee, we really appreciate that. So it's ironic that we've gotten tickets from all over the United States, ticket requests, whether it be $25 or $100. They still all add up if we get enough of them. And it's getting critical to do it. But there's one other thing that we always talk with Dr. Sheldon about dentists, but there's one thing I don't really talk about with Dr. Sheldon. We're talking about charities now. And I know that Dr. Sheldon has had a program, and I'd like for you to explain it, Dr. Sheldon, what you do with, you've selected a certain number of charities, and how is it you go about helping charities?
I'll tell you, it's neat. And it's fresh on the radar screen because I'm teaching it nationally now. So we just talked about it. But, listen, the way this came about was that we had the examination fee kept on going higher and higher and higher, and finally it became prohibitive for a potential patient to actually come in and see me. So I said, all right, let's just drop it. I didn't want to do it at 0 because you get a lot of people showing up at 0 and all they want is 0. So, so I said, all right, donate $50 or more to charity, and you can come in and see me and get the full examination, CT scan, everything else. And that's open to listeners of this program in WMEL. And so we're close to $170,000 in donations. So essentially the patient comes in, writes a check to one of the 8 charities in our charitable giving campaign, and one of those 8 charities is helping seniors in Brevard, and then they get everything. So it's been great for the patients because they come in at a lower fee. It's been great for the charities, and frankly, it's been great for us.
It's been hopefully good for us because you've helped us tremendously over the years with your donations. So that's just an example, folks, of how a local community can help people. And one of the things that we didn't even talk about, what Helping Seniors does, is we are an advocate for seniors. And right now, if you really want to be brutally honest, there are no advocates for seniors in Brevard County. There are none, except our organization. Now, and you have to understand what I'm saying. We have people that serve seniors, but we don't have people that go out and fight to get the money to help serve seniors. I just wrote a letter to the county commissioners and said, instead of reducing the funds, I said, how many of you have been out recently and looked at the new concrete medians? I said, we can drive on potholes, but I said, how many of you have been out and looked at all the new concrete medians we're putting on all our county roads and city roads? And then moreover, on the county roads and the county land, how many of you looked at the new palm groves that we're putting up to replace the orange tree industry that we lost through the hurricanes? It's amazing. There was one place we counted over, we lost track counting 200 palm trees are planting around a thing that turns around to get you back on US 1. If you're driving, folks, just take a look. Take a look at all the palm trees they're planting. Instead of putting money into palm trees, why didn't the county commissioners put that darn money in to fix the potholes? Right. So what we're really talking about is a plan directing people based on what we seniors believe we need in Brevard County. We were selling tickets. So we're just about out of time, but I'll send this real quick so that the producer doesn't get all excited in there. I'll get off this air. We had... I'll tell you next week. He's got the music going. Okay, folks. We'll see you next week, and I'll finish my story next week, so you got to turn in to listen to it. Bye-bye.